thank you to Fabio and Josh for putting this event on. Having the vision and the tenacity to do something like this is no small feat, and we appreciate it. I'm going to be very mindful of time, but I will just reiterate Josh's point about my colleague Tamara, who will be joining us on stage after this session to talk a little bit about Unreal Engine and New Media Manitoba's exciting new project, Studio Lab XR. So without further ado, let's kick into the panel and talk to some of the great folks on the stage here. Should I do an intro? Do you guys want me to do the intros? I'll do them really quick and probably do them wrong. But why don't we start with right here with Klassen from Flipside XR, and maybe just do a quick little intro, and then we'll just go down the wheel.
Hi, I'm Lesley. I'm CEO of Flipside XR. Hello, this is good. This is what microphones do. Hi, I'm Lesley. I don't understand technology. I'm CEO of Flipside XR. I'm co-founder, and so what we make is a virtual production tool. It's like a TV studio for avatars. We have it upstairs on the 4th floor. If you want to see these avatars in action, you can see any immersive creators, any kind of the creator headspace. If you want to kind of create that kind of stuff, you want to check us out on the 4th floor.
Hello, I'm Noah. I'm the studio head and games director at Complex Games. We're Manitoba's first video game development company, and it's been around for about 21 plus years. We're more of a conventional game development studio. We just build digital games for PC and console, and used to do a lot of mobile games. And we just launched a game this year called Warhammer 40,000 Chaos Gate Demon Hunters, which is super ridiculous to know.
This one up. Hi, I'm Sadie Gerard, and I'm the communications manager over at the Ubisoft Winnipeg studio. We are just around the corner. If you're not familiar with Ubisoft, we are also a video game development company. We're headquartered out of France. Been around for about 35 years, but the Winnipeg studio joined the Ubi family about 4 years ago. We're a really tech-focused studio, a lot of programmers, so we do gameplay programming, we work on engines, we work on tools, and we've got a really, really big focus on innovation. Some of the things you may see our name on or that we work on are game engines like Snowdrop and Anvil and now Scalar that Ubisoft has, and you might see our Winnipeg name in the credits for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Far Cry 6, and Roller Champions, and more to come.
Good morning. My name is Dan. I'm the CEO and founder at BitSpace. We're an XR studio located here in Winnipeg. We have a heavy focus on bringing XR into non-traditionally IDM sectors for training, education, and storytelling purposes. Recently, we deployed language training experiences with schools like Georgian College for their Indigenous language program, as well as we're about to launch a chainsaw safety power tools experience with the Manitoba Construction Sector Council. So my focus really is on bringing XR into more traditional learning experiences and making learning more fun.
Hi, I'm Dee King. I run ZenFri. We do interactive experiences. We just released The Last Taxi, which is a VR game. You can go check it out on the 4th floor and play it. We make things for museums, interpretive centers, and then just the general public. Any size of screen is kind of what we do. We also just released this week Power Fist Defense Force. So if you know Princess Auto, they wanted a game, so we have a new game just out now. It's a tactics ISO game. Oh, it's so much fun. Go try it out. It's on your phone already.
I'm very excited about that, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, Princess Auto is a great supporter of the tech community with their cables and things like that. A natural extension. So the format of the session is going to be pretty loose. It's going to be an open discussion with the panelists. I do have some guiding questions, and there'll be a little bit of time for Q&A at the end. Before we start, I'll just kind of maybe talk about interactive digital media and maybe kind of just clear up that vocabulary. People always ask me, you work for the interactive digital media sector council, what is IDM, what is interactive digital media, and I always have a really hard time kind of explaining it. The kind of definition I've kind of landed on is kind of that intersection of something very technical and something very creative, but it's a little bit like art. Everyone has a little bit of a different definition. And maybe we'll kind of go back into the Wayback Machine here, and we'll start with Noah. And we'll ask Noah, as the owner of the longest standing game studio, what was the IDM community or scene like 20 years ago when you were first setting up the Shingle?
Yeah, there was not a whole lot. When we got started, so 2000 is really when we started to work together, a really small cadre of people who kind of knew each other and knew we really wanted to get into video game development, and we're just naive enough to believe we could do it in Manitoba. Without knowing what kind of challenge there would be. Really, the landscape was empty as far as we could see. I mean, it didn't help that the internet at that time was still pretty nascent. So there weren't a lot of ways for people to easily kind of find and connect each other. But we did find some folks who were working on their own games independently, and we kind of came together with the goal of trying to build something here. And like, even then, I think it took until about 2006 for a kind of game community, this sort of video game community to sort of crop up. And I got involved with that with another member of the IDM community here, and sort of started running this, or took over running this game development community. And through that, we started to connect to a lot of people who were just generally interested in this whole IDM thing. And that kind of spun off into connecting to New Manitoba, which at the time I think was just doing, not just, but there was Adobe training and Apple's systems training was very nascent at that time. And the government was really just sort of interested in building up this idea of Manitoba trying to attract these tech jobs really early in 06, 07. So it was really only around then that we found ways through community groups to kind of connect to each other, meet other people, students and teachers. There's some teachers, there's one here who got connected to us at CC, and then sort of build our community from that. And that's really how and when we started to see the industry here grow a little bit more, at least from our perspective on video games.
Cool. So Les, I know you were in linear content creation, maybe not that far back, and then you decided to kind of make the switch to VR. And I remember you were the first person to kind of put a headset on me. What sort of, like, at that time, what sort of made you kind of move from something that was, you have a pretty well established career, and what made you look at IDM and say, like, oh, that's something that I can see a future in?
Well, it's funny because for me the influence was on two things. Noah actually plays a big role, and I started with that. And a nonprofit I worked at. So a nonprofit which, strangely enough, was open to exploring ideas that were a little further than they understood, which was awesome, because that put me in a position where I got to, I had budgets to play with ideas. And so I got to play with ideas. And I remember one time at a media Manitoba event, and Noah was talking about some journey you were on, or some crazy thing you were doing. I came up afterwards and I'm like, oh, Noah, I just managed to land a 2 years of work as a subcontractor, and I realized they overpaid me. And so I'm like, I got some money to invest in some idea, but I felt really just not sure if I could do it on my own. And I talked to Noah afterwards, and I was like, how did you do this, Noah? And Noah literally goes to me, he's like, Les, you can do this. And that was the only piece of advice Noah said. I went home, and I'm like, well, Noah thinks I can do this. So I took some of that cash, and then what also happened in that VR project, actually the co-founders, John and Rachel, we all ended up working together in this not-for-profit. And we're like, hey, we're looking at a welding project, and Oculus just announced a Kickstarter. This is a great excuse for us to figure out how to tell my boss that we need an Oculus Connect or an Oculus headset. And we got this headset, and I ended up creating an experience called Starry Lake, which was I visited my dad. My dad has a place in the Paw, and it's a beautiful lake that he has a place. So I created this thing called Starry Lake. I created 2 trees, literally in VR, and a sky, and a little bit of a lake. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And that same night I was creating on that idea, I went to this park, and I sat down on this bench, and there were 2 trees. And I had a weird, like, nostalgic, weird connection to the medium. My memory, like, went viscerally connected to that Starry Lake experience. So I sat down and saw the 2 trees in real life. And so a combination of good people, good opportunities, and a really powerful arts experience or like visceral experience made me realize that this was the medium that I thought was going to take over the future naively. And then I dove into it and found awesome collaborators, and we've just been throwing our heads together trying to build the future.
Incredible. Signy, you're next. So we've got a little bit of a lens on the past now, and maybe you can speak to what makes Manitoba like a great place to make games and make IDM content from your perspective.
Yeah, I can definitely share a little bit about what made us, make a new home here for Ubisoft Studio. So, like I said in the intro, we're headquartered out of France, and we have about 40 studios all around the world. And about 25% of those are right here in Canada. So huge presence here in Canada. And there's a ton of factors that go into deciding where a studio goes and where we think it's going to be successful. But one of the big driving philosophies there is trying to go to where the talent is. And when they looked at Manitoba and they looked at Winnipeg, from there they went, okay, I think this is a hidden gem of talent that we've got here that hasn't really been tapped into, and where I think there's great things that can be done. And that's a combination of tech talent and the incredible creativity that we have here as a city, because you really need both when you're building something like video games. Is this fantastic intersection of technology and storytelling and creativity and art that all go together. And so seeing what's already come before and the groundwork that teams like Complex and NOAA and all the work that had been done beforehand really gave, I think, a lot of confidence. And then the great schools pipelines that we have here. The instructors at University of Manitoba, at University of Winnipeg, at Red River College, who are getting more talented teams out into the world every year that they graduate. From there gave us a lot of confidence that this was a place where we could build something, where we could grow, and we already kind of grew more quickly than we anticipated from there. So so far it's been an incredibly exciting journey to be on here. And I'm a lifelong Winnipegger from there, like most of us. We moved to Winnipeg, come back, but this is my hometown, so it's been really incredible to see the foundations that everyone here kind of laid get built on, and see us shine on the world stage with the talent that we've got here.
Yeah, community definitely seems kind of a running theme here in Winnipeg, especially. It's great to see. We'll kick it over to Dan next. Dan, you started talking about this tech talent, and then I think for the audience, there's probably no other firm that does more co-op placements and more students. Like, I'm continually amazed at Dan's capacity to take people in and find them meaningful placements and get them engaged in the industry. I know you want to talk to that, Mike. Maybe talk about what you're seeing in students. Yeah.
I will say, I don't just take students and then never see them again. We do hire lots.
Oh, yeah. I'm
a little worried, right? So
You're right.
A lot of people go to work at this space and never see them again. For transparency, we do source a lot of our talent through the co-op programs and placement programs through a lot of schools like MITT, Red River, etc. And what I will say is that the programming has been getting a lot better. When BitSpace started, transparency, I am a Bit grad from Red River College. I studied web development, and then whether it was a good idea or not, decided I really liked VR. And here I am, mostly because I don't know how to stop doing it, which is both a philosophical thing and a technical thing. I actually don't technically know how to stop. But over the years, the programming at the schools here in the province, and we do work with schools out of the province as well, has really advanced. And the programming through the new game dev program at Red River College, for example, is really catered towards setting you up for success in this industry. We've had a lot of success bringing on both for the art stream, the dev stream, but also from some of our other departments, like on our machine learning team and the web team as well, which make out all the different facets of the projects that we work on. But the experience has been really good in the sense that we've been able to work with the schools to create programming that will lead into that co-op placement. The co-ops that we design at BitSpace are really focused around putting you into a situation in which you're going to learn as much as possible. So if you're on the IT team, I'll immediately ask you, have you ever racked equipment before? No, great, you're going to build a server rack. And it's just like from scratch, here we go. Our devs, the way that we've structured our development teams is really focused around that mentorship piece. So we have the leads who will create that experience where we're going to like ease you into certain things, unless you're coming to me from P-Tech, like David, who's in the back, where I will just throw you into the most ridiculous research project that is possible. And it turned out really well. So long-winded way of saying that like the landscape right now for co-op placements is great. And honestly, the programming at the schools is really adapting to the needs of the industry right now.
That's great to hear. Dee, you're next. Last Taxi, it's got such a strong narrative focus, obviously, and it's an original creation, as far as I understand. Maybe you can talk about what some of the challenges are and what some of the joys are of taking like an original idea and turning it into a finished product.
Challenge, VR. VR is incredibly difficult to work with. Anytime we talk to clients and they say, well, how much is this project? And you're like, well, if you add VR to it, it's double. So it was a lot of fun to work on, very difficult because you have to constantly put the headsets on. There's a lot of technical challenges. The game is the size of GTA 5, but cubically. So we had to pack it all in a very small amount of space. We're working with, regular hardware. Most people don't have huge graphics cards. Most people don't have the 30s and the 40s. So we're trying to fit on those 1090s, which is a very huge technical challenge. So eventually we got there. It took a while. Pandemic happened. We had to delay and had to constantly work and rework things, but we did finish June. It's been such a blur. But it was very rewarding. It's very narrative focused. So you sit in the taxi, you are yourself, you're not anyone else. We wanted to make sure that it spoke to everyone, regardless of their size, their gender, anything to do with them. So all of the language is very neutral. And you get into the taxi and there's always going to be someone new behind you. It's all futuristic, sci-fi in the general distant future where all of our bad decisions kind of catch up with us. So it's very apocalyptic and there's lots of robots and different people going through difficult problems. And so there's a long narrative focus, and then there's always snippets of each character dealing with their own problems. So it's very exploratory. I call it like a psychological sandbox. You get in and you get to make your own decisions. This robot wants to marry their owner. Is that okay? They really love them. I don't know. Is this like slave? Is this, are they actually together? Is this programming? You get to make your own decision on the actual outcome. You get to make your decisions in the conversation to kind of help guide them through their own decisions. And then there'll be far-reaching changes. We read the news afterwards, and you get to see what actually happens.
Yeah, it's incredible what you guys what you all did with that game.
And check it out on the fourth floor.
Okay, so we've all kind of talked about kind of where we are now as a community and as companies. Maybe we can kind of talk. I'm just going to throw this to the group at large. Like, where do you think Winnipeg or Manitoba needs to kind of go in the next? Let's not put it too far out, but in the next little while, how can we take things a little further? We've all got. I know every company is struggling to find the right talent and to produce to produce their product. Where can this go? How are things going to move in the next year or two? Do you think?
I mean, I think the challenge for every business here is that you may have the talent here and the ideas to build the products here, which is actually amazing. It's really hard to find a place where the cost of living, the talent is right, and the balance of all these things can actually let you make a real product. The hard part is that most of the money that comes into the industry is from outside of Manitoba. So from the growth side, the challenges are, you don't realize this, you're like, especially when you're in the beginning, you're like, I want to create this thing, it's amazing, but as you start developing the business understanding, it's really important for understanding the way to bring out, like exports in. How do you bring in money from outside the province? How do you find investors from outside the province? How do you bring in larger projects that are national or internationally focused? Because the local market here, as cool as it is, and I'm glad they're engaging in the new tech, it's very challenging to kind of keep the local market investing in it as much because there's a smaller market base here.
And I'll just add to that, I mean, one of the big challenges just for tech, IBM, across the board overall in the past few years, I'd say is that with the pandemic, basically all of this industry has transformed from, generally locally sourcing, maybe larger companies on the coast would source across the country, but now everyone's sourcing globally, right? So for a long time in Manitoba, we were essentially competing within Manitoba. And now, as far as we are studios here working in IBM, we're really competing for talent globally. And so putting together as a province our competitive advantage versus California, versus parts of Europe, other hubs where there's a lot of demand and a lot of draw is, I think, one of the big challenges that we've always had, and certainly even more so now.
Any other anyone else want to weigh in on that topic?
I'll just very briefly echo what Noah said there. I think that the global pandemic has really shaken things up, and it's now a global competition for talent from there. And I think articulating what's great about Manitoba and Winnipeg and what you love and what you have the potential to do here is part of how we can try and compete on that landscape from there.
The only thing that I'll echo, because or I guess I'll add to what Les was saying, because I agree with everything else, is not only is there sort of a challenge of like procurement and bringing projects and cash into the province, and this isn't specific to IDM, it's kind of like just like startup growth and cash in general, but is access to like capital and VC flow. So there's a bit of a movement right now that's starting. I spoke at the Startup TNT event last week where they had their first ever like actual round of investment, which was won by one of the companies, a VR company. So like IDM is present in that space, but it is young here. And so when you're growing a company, we kind of have a couple choices. We can bootstrap it and like Flipside, BitSpace, and everyone else, like, all right, we're going to sell things and build a company. And I'm not going to get into how BitSpace ended up how it is because it's not what I planned on building when I got started. But getting access to investors and the capital needed to like scale a company, which if you're not in like the business mindset, sounds super boring, but is incredibly important to building out a robust ecosystem. Because once we get that cash into the companies for growth, then we get the jobs and eventually the roundabout investment back into the community for things like this to exist.
So let's talk about how we could maybe fill some of that talent shortage. And you all mentioned the great programs that are happening from a post-secondary perspective, Red River, Simoine, BIT. How do we, UD Manitoba does so much work with students, and kind of the inevitable question I always get is, how do I get into this? How do I get into this industry? And you can direct them to technical programs and things like that. But what sort of baseline skills do you want to see in prospective employees beyond what language they program in, and what sort of things should they be doing to sort of like make them a more prospective prospect than hiring someone from a different market, for example? Do you want to weigh in on that?
We work in Unity, so Unity is a big thing. If either artists or programmers can start in Unity and at least show that they have some experience, it makes a huge difference. Something that Meg from Como said to me way back was she hires for fit, not for skill, and I totally agree with that. I of course don't do it equal. If someone comes in with a bit more skill, we're hiring for that culture fit to make sure that everyone can work together. And so it's not only about what you have on the paper that you hand me or the portfolio, it's about like how you are as a person and if you're going to mesh well with the rest of my team. If it seems like you're going to get well with Sasha and Christian, then yeah, definitely a good fit.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about how strong some of the programs out of the schools are. We do a lot of co-op placements at our studio from there, and there's been a lot of incredibly talented individuals that have gone on to graduate from there, and we're now lucky enough to have them working at our studio from there. And we have a similar sort of philosophy from there that the technical skills are important. Yes, if you have a lot of C++ skills, which is what we tend to look for very often, that's fantastic from there. But we also look for that creativity, a sense of collaboration, the ability to innovate. Are you able to learn? You're not necessarily going to come in with every single hard skill that you need, but do you show a drive to learn? What can you put in apart from just your resume? What are the projects? What do you work on? What are you passionate about? What shows us that you want to continue learning? Because the skills of today are going to change from there too. It's constantly going to be evolving. So that ability to constantly learn is really important. And then also, we have a little bit of a luxury as a tech-focused studio. We're like 70-75% programmers, very, very tech-focused, of being able to bring in people from other tech industries that aren't necessarily the video game industry. We have people from all kinds of other technical fields that have come in, and the things that they say they find most useful are just that knowledge of software architecture, knowledge of agile, tools programming. There's a lot of things that span across the two. And again, just that collaboration and the drive to learn is really, really big.
And I mostly just echo what Sydney and both said, but from our part, for sure, one big thing that we always look for are people who've tried to work on their own projects. And particularly, in our community, we've had a very great, robust, and active game jam sort of event community that's brings people together in impromptu teams to work on games over a weekend. Anything like that, anything that someone can show that they've worked on kind of outside of the scope of the classroom, that shows their enthusiasm and interest in just taking the project, no matter how small from start to finish, is a really big indicator for us of the kind of people and talent.
I have nothing to add. Everything is said.
I do have one thing that I want to add. I'll make Jamil really happy. Is one of the areas that we really are focusing on right now is from the schools. People are coming in. They know Unity, they know Houdini, they know whatever technical thing it is right now. At least at a reasonable degree of what we need for them to get started. So of course we look for the right people to fit in with the team. But one of the things that we're really struggling finding right now is people that have a strong understanding of things like source control and working as part of a team. I think one of the symptoms of the pandemic is everybody worked at home alone. And now we're kind of pulling people into a team and they have to collaborate on a project with more than just themselves. And the amount of time that we spend dealing with wiping out people's changes, merge conflicts and stuff, it's just, and everyone knows, if you know what's up. It's not fun, and it is a deficiency in the education system right now. There is a lot of focus on soft skills and those technical pieces, but not a lot of focus on actually working together.
Yeah, I'll just echo that. It's incredibly, incredibly important for the scale of some of the projects that some of the teams that we have at USAP work on. There's hundreds of people who will be involved in a game. You might be collaborating with somebody somewhere in North America in the morning, somewhere, somebody in Europe later in the day, or somebody in China at a totally different time from there. And you've all got to work together to shape a single video game that's going to ship So the ability to work together, both just through a spirit of collaboration, but also through good processes is really, really important.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask a selfish question.
Pull before you push.
Okay, here's my selfish question then. As a training manager, there's all sorts of requests for training. How do I train for that? How do we? Okay, here we go.
You bring in all the CTOs and leaders of programming departments together for a second, and they'll all
They're really easy to get together.
they'll all scream the same thing: version control in GitHub. And then what you need to do is teach everyone version control in GitHub, and we will solve most of our stress. So this is the solution. I'm giving you the solution right here.
There's another piece of that. We can encourage people to apply that knowledge at things like Peg Jam.
Yes.
So we're doing the game jams. Encourage people to like get into a group together,
Yes.
but track your changes while you're working.
Track changes.
All right, well, stay tuned for a meeting after a workshop. I'll expect everyone in this room to attend.
I'll be checking.
All right, let's talk about, we're kind of, I think, getting somewhat close to the end here. Why don't we talk about what's personally exciting me for technology? What's one piece of tech that maybe everyone in this room should know about or get excited about? I know everyone is talking about all the advancements in AI and art, but I'm sure there's all sorts of other tenets that we could maybe touch upon. What should we know about? What should we care about?
On the well, first of all, the AI front's interesting because everyone talks about stable diffusion and all the different cool like image stuff that's happening, which I think is really cool, and there's lots of opportunities there. But that's being applied to the 3D model space right now. So because we make a creator tool, and creators want to create avatar content, and they're like thinking about, well, what kind of props can I bring into my show that I'm making, or what kind of art can I add to my 3D show I'm making, and the ability to. And I wish actually Corey was on the panel, because one day I was having a conversation with Corey at Fourth, and we were just I was showing him what we were doing with Flipside. He goes, oh, why didn't I think of that? And he was like ranting away about something awesome. And then he said, wouldn't it be cool if you could get into VR and just say, oh, I'd like to see a rose, and then it would pop up and you have a rose. And now, 5-6 years later, NVIDIA is releasing this technology, AMD is working on this technology, open source technology is coming out. So the ability to like basically instantiate 3D art that can be usable on a mobile device like a Oculus headset is transformative from a creator's perspective. So I'm very excited to see what the tools, the co-creation of AI is going to be really cool for artists.
I also really like machine learning. A shameless plug that we have a funded research project right now that's starting up in January. If there's anyone here that comes from a machine learning background, we are building out that image to 3D object pipeline right now. That technology is really exciting to me from like a world building perspective. I don't necessarily see it as like a replacement for skills, but what it is really good for is like that concept and the recreation of a space for use in like a digital twin environment. So right now the technologies that we're really focused on like the innovation side at BitSpace is machine learning pipelines and machine learning technology to help enhance our simulations and training environments.
Now, what games should we care about? So many good games to play.
But it's okay, yeah, because I'm not a technological Luddite. I just focus on it. Jeez, what games? Well, I mean, the big ones that jump out at me, which I'm just going to forget the name of, but all the Dan Mullins games are super interesting and weird. And Coney Island is fantastic. The big one is the card or the deck building game, which I'm just forgetting about right now. Dan Mullins deck building game. Come on, get on Google. Someone
I think it was called Warhammer 40K.
You gotta play it. I mean, also Outer Wilds, just like phenomenal. It's an experience.
Right, it's time to give
Give it a choice.
I mean, honestly, selfishly, because I work in communications, I get to talk to incredibly smart tech people every day at work and try to wrap my head around what they're doing and how we can translate that for people in the company and people outside the company from there. and I get excited every day for what I see there. We just added a team to Scalar, which is about currently merging the cloud with the cloud. I'm excited to see where that can take us, where it can take video games from there. And for games, I mean, I like everything right now, but I'll give a plug to one of our teams that just came out of beta for Rainbow Six, and we get to over to mobile from there. We just finished their beta. They're pretty pumped about it. I got a chance to have a play session with them at the studio, and I'm pretty pumped about that. So I'll give them a plug.
The title?
Inscription. Play inscription.
Inscription. Yeah, I think the last one here, and then we'll open it up to Q&A.
For tech, I really love photogrammetry. It's not there yet, but it's gonna get there. Just like what Corey said about like images popping up, I totally see photogrammetry and VR together seamlessly. It's like trying to get the emotional capacity of talking to people, but in a VR sense. It's gonna get there, but it's not there quite yet. Photogrammetry will just bring it all the way there. For games, I don't play too many games. I'm one of those people who I make games so much that I don't work, I don't enjoy them. Back when I worked in films, I didn't watch films, I played games, so I kind of swapped, and now I watch films.
Great. So why don't we open it up to some questions? I think the room is small enough that you can just vocalize if you have some questions, and then I'll maybe echo the question through the mic. There's one in the back.
I'm a teacher for IDM in high school right now, and I have 3 very talented students here. So is there any words of encouragement I could give to students that are early budding in this industry to help them pursue their passion?
Words of encouragement. There's a lot of opportunity in this space. The demand is crazy high. If you are really excited about interactive or game development, and you want to get a job, and there are jobs here, crazy numbers of jobs here now, and that's expanding and then just everywhere. So yeah, just get into it, jump into it, learn what you can. Just
Make a portfolio and push your code to Git.
Yeah, but this is a place where you can have that kind of career. If you want to build something of your own, if you want to build something indie, if you want to join a larger studio and be part of creating something really big, that potential is here, and it really is fun.
And I think they've made a great first step by actually being present as well.
Yes.
That's not an easy
Great.
thing when you're a young person to kind of get out of your comfort zone and be in a room with a bunch of people who aren't necessarily your age. So I would also encourage you to check out all the other community events, because there are so many when it comes to tech and game dev. Join the Discord servers and just get to meet all the wonderful people, because there's a bunch of wonderful owners of companies or high-end companies, but there's also loads of inviting and kind people who work in these companies who are really excited to talk your language and get to know young people. So, on the front here,
When's the next game jam?
is Dan Ross.
Dan, when's the next game jam?
I can say that.
It's coming 2023
Dan's a big boy, but it is going to happen.
I circled that on my calendar.
probably the
I will say it's going to
first, second quarter.
Than we've ever done before. I think it's going to be really good. So students, aspiring industry professionals, people in industry will all be there making games together, and it's going to be a ton of fun. And Dan's going to be.
Be careful you're not hyping it up when it becomes Fire Festival.
I know it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it's going to be great. Dan will be doing a workshop on Git for all participants, so check them out there.
It's just me yelling at you to push your code.
One in the back.
Yeah. So, what's your guys' opinion about Web3 and blockchain space? Is my first question. My second one is, are there any plans for you guys to build self-sovereign systems? Integrating NFTs, because gamers are a fickle bunch, and there's a stigma of pay to earn or pay to win. Are you guys doing anything with that technology with smart contracts?
No.
We aren't either.
Strongly opposed.
I'll say why. It's because obviously if you're looking at the volatility of that market and the collapse that's happening, and there's no regulation. You're having a lot of scams. As good intentioned as anyone might be in the space, you can't see it. It's not transparent. So you're taking a lot of risk bringing those technologies into your software stack. It becomes like a philosophy or almost a religion versus a practical decision to make for your product. So it's actually way too risky to be connected to such a volatile system.
I would have maybe like a few months ago used some better examples, but they blew up recently.
Yes, I'm new in the city and new in the country. I want to ask because you speak a lot of the technical background of the intelligence here, but from the point of the UX and UI experience, how is the medium right now? Because I heard there's a lot of demand and the competition should be good up here. So what is your impression about the talent that were here in from the university for the code and how it's the program of UX is working for you?
That's a great question.
I can't really speak to the programs in too much detail. I'm not as familiar with them, but I will say it is an incredibly important skill. We have a number of UI, UX people that work at our studios. If you're doing technology, you're doing tools, that kind of thing. If nobody uses them, it doesn't matter how cool they are. So it's really, really key. I the utmost respect for the work that these teams are doing here.
And I know Red River, I think, and I don't know if the Red River folks here has kind of a new UI UX facility at their new facility, testing and things like that there. So it's certainly something that we get a lot of requests from companies on is UI UX training. So I think that's a good field to invest time and effort in. Yes.
There are a lot of people around new game ideas. So if someone comes to you with a new game idea, how would you like the idea to be pitched to you? What elements do you look for when someone is narrating the story, telling the different parts of the game, how it will be built? So what elements do you look in that idea when you are hearing? How will you move forward?
Well, I think you're sort of presenting a challenge, and the challenge is certainly for companies just taking a pitch for an idea. It's not something that any of us in most companies normally do. If you're trying to pitch for funding to build your idea, then there are actually funds and publishers and other companies who can support, indie developers, new developers who are, putting that together. But just an idea on its own, I'm not sure, I don't want to characterize that exactly, but it's very difficult because none of us are set up to produce somebody else's ideas. That's not really the business that we're in. We're in it for various different things, but it's really not about scope. There are a lot of ways of pitching a project for funding that's built on that idea, and you're bringing together a team and you're trying to do that yourselves. But that's a bit of a different focus, I think, from what you have.
If you are serious about developing a game, there are studios that'll do it as a service. So if you were a company coming to me right now saying, Dan, I want to do a project. So I'm not going to say, I'm going to kind of skew your question a little bit from, I'm an individual and I want to pitch a game to like a producer. But say you're like a researcher or you're a company and you're looking to build something, what we look for is if we have a well-scoped idea, we have well-scoped outcomes from the application that we're going to develop, and we have a reasonable understanding of what that budget looks like. And it's really fun to see when like a project gets like someone comes to me for a budget, and then like they bounce between companies, and it's really fun when we can see that as a company, because it happens where someone will come to us and say, hey, I've got an idea for a thing, I'm a researcher, or I'm at this company, want to build this game. And we'll give them the ballpark of, okay, you're expecting this range. And I'll tell you right now, the range is higher than you're imagining. like even for like a standard game, like whatever you got in your head right now, it is higher. So
Then double that.
Yeah. Then double it at 30%. And if you want art, quad it. But yeah, so like from like a healthy, like actual realistic pitch. Like if you're coming to us and you want to say, you know, okay, I want to build a game. I want to do X, Y, and Z. This is our market. I'm going to do my due diligence to make sure that you're a real company, because you know, well, lots of startups will come boot through and be like, oh, we got a cool idea, and then the funding is immediately gone, and I'm usually stuck with the product. But yeah, so like understanding that like you need to have a solid understanding of what a game will cost and what you want to get out of it. Who is your market? You know, are you selling it to students? Are you selling it to other companies? Are you using it internally at a company? Are you just looking to build a thing on Steam and then you set your expectations on who you're going to talk to? It sounds like from your question you're looking at like a publisher option or looking at like a fund like CMF or something.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, also remember, the thing too is if you're new and you don't know how to do this, Game Jam, this is for real, is a great example where you go to the Game Jam, let's say you have an idea, you can develop relationships with people, because what's really important is that you have strong relationships because they fund you on your team. So you need a team, and also really specifically think about when you're pitching ideas, you have to remember that people who do take pitches take everyone's pitches all the time, constantly, always, and it's like every email they get becomes like, oh my God, here comes another pitch. So how do you make your pitch more awesome than the other pitch? Is you need to really be able to describe what you do, what you want to do with your words, with pictures, with videos, with everything, but you don't know when you're at GDC because you decide to go down for your own exploration that you're running to a producer beside you, and you can't literally get them excited about what's going on with your concept or idea in 30 seconds. That means you don't really know what you're making. And so that's the most important thing, is like you've got to keep on drilling it down to like what is the core you're making, find a good team, go to game jams, don't pitch companies because really they're gonna say, love the idea, but we just can't afford to take resources for it, too much risk.
And remember, if you're building art or a product, like there's a strong difference between something you're building because you love it and you don't really like you're building because you think it should exist, and a thing that you're building that you want to make money with.
It's time for maybe, how are we doing for time?
Maybe one more question.
Maybe one more question. I think you had your hand up first.
Hi, I'm Jessie from Economic Development Winnipeg. I'm delighted that you finished that answer about making money. So I'm here to talk about businesses. I'm here to represent the health of the IDM industry in Winnipeg. So earlier in the conversation, there was discussion over local customers versus export industries attracting international business. So, that's of course good and bad because now you're no longer vulnerable to the local economy. But there are, of course, challenges with attracting international customers or national customers. So my question is, how are your companies marketing and advertising nationally and internationally, and is it working?
I'll give a quick answer on our side. Right now our product's not launched in the market, so it's very challenging to publicly market yet because we have some agreements with our partners that we can't say things until it's in the marketplace. So we have a bunch of confidential pitch materials that we've developed. What we for example, we just finished the Japanese Canada Tech Accelerator because we know our product really aligns with the VTuber Japanese market. So we've been leveraging national programs like the Trade Commissioner Services. We leverage things like Shred because we are a technical company, and so what that lets us do is there's systems in Canada that create good, operational flow that you can maintain a marketing arm, which is super important. You need to have these calls. We're on calls all the time with potential partners, funders. It's really it's like living on Zoom, basically, and pitching organizations that are your customers. That's fundamentally what you have to do constantly, including investors. So it's like any other business. How do you get international business is you're constantly pitching, but preferably with materials you can share publicly. But that always makes it challenging.
In video games, we don't have kind of like the traditional trade problems that you often talk about in terms of marketing internationally, in the sense that, at least on the distribution side, that is pretty much easy. You don't necessarily have to distribute the physical product. You don't have to get it across the ocean. I mean, there's obviously ways of doing it. Video games to take a box product, but a lot of the game production industry and development industry, sort of below the top level, or Ubisoft is at the top level, so we can speak to a lot of the challenges there, I'm sure. But it's just getting your product distributed through one of the existing networks, and there's a 30% cut that they take, and then your game is out there on those networks, and then marketing it is always kind of like a scale and an investment challenge, right? So a lot of indie studios market through the existing press and just sort of get there as best as they can with their tiny little marketing team, insofar that it is. They just try and get the word out, and that spreads. And if you're lucky with that amount of resources, it goes viral, at least clicks, and then people tap into that. And then it just kind of scales up from there, right? For us, we had a publisher, the publisher had experience marketing and distributing globally. And so they had a team, and that team had a budget, and that budget went to attracting influencers, it went to reaching out to press, it went to creating content. And that's how you reach various international markets in game development, sort of the scale we work at.
Well, we're a little bit past noon, so I want to give everyone a chance to kind of circulate and go to the washroom before the next session. I want to thank the panel here for sharing their time and their expertise with everyone here and being part of the very first hyper festival, the conference for me.